Just as we went off the air live yesterday, the Saints came out with their first injury report of the week for their upcoming game Sunday against the Atlanta Falcons. No big deal. I mean, we already knew Eric McCoy is going to miss 6 to 8 weeks, so of course he's out. Wait, Demario Davis didn't practice? All right. Cesar Ruiz? Who's going to play right guard? Okay, well, we'll figure it out. Alante Taylor is sick. He missed. Well, hopefully medicine can cure him. That's it. Okay, wait, what? Alvin Kamara? Oh, man. Well, at least we have plenty to talk about in the show today, and we'll still find time for Gabe, Henderson, Tom Casale, Uncle Big Nick with our best bets of the week. There's no time for wallowing in our own self-pity. No. It is time for the Dattitude podcast, and it is coming up next.
If you're looking for the latest scoop and in-depth interviews on the Saints, the NFL, the Pelicans, LSU, along with the best bets of the week, then lucky you. Along with high-powered, in-the-know guests who cover our teams, Jim Derry brings plenty of Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.
Where you at, New Orleans? Hello to my friends elsewhere, everywhere, out there who have told their spouses they have shown up on the injury report for today's dishwashing duties. They are listed as doubtful. I don't think that's going to work, buddy. Better get those gloves on, pal. I've tried that already. Doesn't work. That's all right. We got you back here on Dattitude, episode number 285, presented by Evangeline Securities for a Thursday, September the 26th, 2024. I'm your deadpan hands, Jim Derry. I'm your host. Whether you're watching on one of our NOLA.com social media channels or listening on demand of the podcast, as always, I thank you for being a part of the Dattitude family. We got a jam-packed show today. I'm going to spend the first 15 minutes between me talking about the Saints, the injuries. Gabe's here just for a brief moment. He's on vacation. That's how big of a trooper Gabe is. He's on vacation, still coming in. Give me his picks. I like his pick. He's got a good pick today. I asked him what it was this time, so I like it. We're gonna get to that. You're watching live. You know what to do. The regulars, all the regulars. I know best bets. We don't get everybody here on Best Bets Day. We don't just talk about the best bets. UBN, Dattitude, and I didn't even know it was the President's Cup. That shows you how much I'm out of golf this year. I didn't know it was the President's Cup, and got to be honest, no offense, UBN, I don't give a damn. Don't tell anybody. John Pace, who dat? We've been talking back and forth. He was in town this past weekend for Saints-Eagles. Maybe next time you come in, they'll win. If they don't, if you come in next time and they lose, John, I don't know. Might be banned. Kyle Sherman's here. Good morning. Good morning, T-Mama. Who dat? Brian. Brian doesn't gamble, but you got to think the best play of the week is the Saints would be the under. I do like the under. And look, I've said this before about this show. And tell this to your friends. Look, again, this is probably, we spent about, I don't know, 60, 70% talking about the best bets and games of the week and all that stuff. It's not, you don't have to bet to enjoy this show. I know it was this way long before I started betting. Like, I always wanted to know what the spread was, what people thought about the lines. I just enjoy hearing the conversation about what's going to happen, even if I'm not going to bet on something. There's a pod I listen to with these sharps. I don't bet on probably 85% of the stuff they talk about, but I enjoy listening to how they come to those conclusions. You don't have to bet to enjoy a best bet show, in my opinion. Again, I'm going to open up with the Saints in just a minute. You know how to comment, as all of our friends just did. You type them in on YouTube or Facebook. We'll show them, as long as you're not a complete doofus, as some of the comments that I got on YouTube. One guy. I keep getting out. It's not just him. It's these people that come in and out. And I don't know how, I guess they find the shorts or they find TikToks and they like to comment. You're just talking bad about your team. What kind of fan are you? Dude, I'm not a fan. Oh, I am a fan too, I guess. The grand scheme of things, I'm human. I root for them to win. But I tell you the way that I think that it is. I'm not going to tell people, if you're a regular of the show, you know this already. And this is what I told him. I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear unless I believe it. If I'm telling you what you want to hear, then you can believe that I think that it's true. I'm not going to sit there and say, oh, it doesn't matter if Eric McCoy's gone. It's no big deal. It's no big deal if Cesar Ruiz doesn't play either. They'll figure out something. It's not Clint Kubiak's fault. No. I mean, my regulars know how it is. I see the numbers dropping. I don't care if you don't like it. I'm going to tell you the way that I think it is. And if you don't like it, you don't have to listen to it. I don't want you to leave. I want you to come back. I know that's not a way to sell the show, but it is what it is. That's who I am. So my regulars are still here. Again, if you haven't already done so after that great selling job that I just did, please subscribe to our YouTube page. Got all kinds of great stuff to tell you this week. You'll have access to our shorts and short takes on, go check out TikTok as well. Oh, and you can always get in touch with me and tell me how much you hate me on X at Jim Derry Jr. via email, jderry@theadvocate.com. Look, all right, on to something else. We got to get to Gabe in just a minute. And then Tom Casale's coming on. We had to record our segment as we usually do with UBN. He's at the end of the show. UBN's having a rough start, man. I mean, I don't want to spoil it, but he's 3-12. That ain't good. In case you're not a math major, that ain't good. So I give him a little business for that. But he started slow, I think, the last 2 years in a row. And then he goes on, and I'm not kidding, and I'm not just saying this. He'll go on these rolls where he's like 4-1, like 4 weeks in a row. You better jump on the train while you can get on it, because it goes fast. He does it every year. Every year. He started off terrible last year, and he finished over 500. So listen to the way he goes through his thought process. The only thing he got right, though, by the way, last week is we had crossfire, and then we agreed on one. We agreed on the Eagles covering against the Saints. And the two that we were crossfire on, of course, he lost. Poor UBN. I think he's watching right now. He was watching earlier. No, he's there. Watch football without bet? Yeah. John says if he's the cause of losing, we're in trouble this season. There's no doubt about that. Just messing with you. Big Sean's here. What's up? We have a lot of good stuff to talk about. It's not all bad. It's not all bad. Brian says bettors give you information. The talking heads these days are just talking to talk. Look, other shows, they'll tell you what you want to hear. Okay? If you want a show that will tell you what you want to hear and everything's going to be okay, then you can find them. In fact, if you email me, I'll tell you who they are. If you email me and you really want to know and you're like, Jim, you're a little too much Derry Downer this week. I want to listen to somebody who's going to make me feel good about these Saints. And even if they get their ass kicked, I know that they can make me feel like everything will be okay next week. I will tell you where to go. Just email me. John says, hopefully Clint puts together a good game plan to address the injuries on offense. I will say this, in all positiveness, I do think that Clint Kubiak is going to have a great game plan this week. I mean, I think he'll come out and try to do his best to find ways around what's going to be missing on the O-line. Is it enough? I don't know. It doesn't matter what I think. That's another thing too. I mean, this is for entertainment purposes. Maybe a little information gathering too, but it's for, I mean, all these shows, everything. It's all entertainment purposes. Real quick, you remember yesterday I was talking about the people, the Pirates, and then how I think what they did to Rowdy Tellez was the crappiest thing that I've seen this year, and it just goes to show why people have lost their faith in professional sports. And if you don't know what I'm talking about and you didn't see the show yesterday, the gist is Rowdy Tellez had a bonus clause in his contract. Big, giant first baseman. He's about my size, except he can hit the ball about 300 feet further than me. He had a clause in his contract that said if he had 425 plate appearances, he would get an additional $200,000. So he got to 421, and with 5 games left in the season, the Pirates cut him. What kind of horse shit is that? I'm just saying. So anyway, there was some moron on X defending him, saying that he's a terrible player. I'm like, I don't care if he had 050. You don't cut him if you want to cut, if he stinks, then cut him in June. You don't cut him when he's about to hit his bonus, you cheap sons of bees. I don't know. Anyway, somebody came back at me. You know what I do when they do? When I get morons coming at me on X, it happens a lot. I had last week with the Pac-12 stuff. Gabe kept going after him, and I'm just like ignoring these people. I'm one of those people that if I have a number on my notifications, it bothers me. So I have to click on the notification, but you don't have to read it, right? You just scroll through it to make sure, and I'm like looking up, okay, the number's gone. And then he came back at me again later. I guess he didn't like that I didn't come back at him, but this gives a little insight into my world and my ADHD and how that all works. You know, Saints injuries, in case you didn't hear what they were when in the open. Alvin Kamara, hip/ribs. Now, I'm hoping it's just a way to give him a veteran day off, although I think they would say that. So the fact that he's got a hip and ribs, he's got two problems in the injury report, that ain't good. Remember, Kendra Miller's still on IR. He cannot come back until after this week. By the way, if you got a spot on your fantasy team, I'm just saying, I picked Kendra Miller up this week. Do I think he's going to do anything? I don't think so, but it wouldn't surprise me. From everything that I hear through my friends in the grapevine is he's been working his tail off in practice, trying to prove that he is not injury prone and that he's ready to hit the ground running, literally and figuratively, when he comes off of IR next week. Be watching for that. Rocky's here. Who dat? Rocky says, game goes under, Saints win. Tomorrow's the day when I ask for your predictions, although I'll show them if you ask them. If you got one today, I'll show them tomorrow when Larry comes on. All right, so Alvin Kamara, hip ribs. Cesar Ruiz got a knee injury. Demario Davis, hamstring. Alante Taylor, illness. Landon Young, who's supposed to be backing up these guys, he's got a foot injury. He was in limited fashion. Colin Saunders was back in limited fashion. DeMarco Jackson, calf, limited. It's a problem, dude. I'm telling you right now, it's a problem. Spread hasn't changed since yesterday. They don't want to come off of that 2.5. There's a one thing, if you don't bet and you don't know, when you see a 2.5, it takes a lot to move it to 3. And if it's 3.5, it takes a lot to move it down to 3. It'll go up a lot easier to 4 than it'll go down to 3. It's that number. So I don't know if it's going to go to Saints. If you see it goes +3, that means a ton of money coming in the Falcons. I'll give you my spoiler alert later because it is in my best bets. Atlanta has a couple injuries of their own that are key, but they only have 2. Now they're both on the offensive line. Their center, Drew Dahlman, he's on. They got placed on IR with an ankle injury, and their right guard, Caleb McGarry, he didn't practice. He's got an MCL injury, but he may end up being able to play. They decided not to put him on IR. Or maybe he can't play this week, and they just don't want to have him miss 4 games. We're going to talk about that later on in the show, as well as Tom's going to come on and give me not only his best bets, we're going to talk about the 4 best college games of the week, and I'm going to ask him his opinion on LSU, South Alabama. As you see on the screen, South Alabama, 21.5-point underdog. Is that too many? I mean, South Alabama's got a pretty good offense. Even it's hard to judge them when they're playing nobodies. I get it. But LSU has had trouble stopping nobodies at different periods of time. Ask him what he thinks about that. And then South Florida, they've been an interesting case. They played some big-time teams and got walloped, and played some not really good teams and walloped them. That's an interesting matchup. The American Athletic, All-American, whatever it's called. You know what I mean. The American Conference. The Big A, whatever you want to call them. The Wave, their opener in that conference is this week. All right. It is time to, before we get to Gabe real quick and before we get to Thomas Casale and the rest of the show, let me continue the story about our friends at Evangeline Securities. This week will sure make you think about getting out of the rat race, won't it? I mean, we had our hurricane here. It wasn't nearly as bad as the one that's about to hit Florida. My stepmom lives over there. I got family in Panama City. Worried about them, thinking about them. Have you been thinking about selling your family-run a privately held business and not having to worry about this kind of stuff anymore? It's pretty simple. Get in touch with my friends at Evangeline. Managing partners Nick Braden and Ron Hema will maximize the value for that aforementioned business. And they do that by scheduling a complimentary valuation. Then you can make an informed decision about what's best for you and yours and the people who have been loyal to you for all these decades. Stick around to hear more later in the show, but in the meantime, you can check them out at www.evangelinesecurities.com. Okay, he has patiently been waiting. He's in the green room, and I'm only going to take another 2-3 minutes of his time because I know he wants to go back on vacation. Gabe Henderson, how have you enjoyed this week off, sir?
You know, once you get to the back half of the week, you kind of start getting a little bored.
Yeah. You can only is everything set up in the house?
Everything except for decorations on the wall, mostly, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well,
so
we see there's nothing behind me.
Next time I come on, you'll see some LSU merch behind me.
All right. Last week you had you were with UBN and you had Eagles plus 2.5 over the Saints. You won. What do you got this week? Because you told me before. You don't usually tell me, but you told me this week, and I like the pick. It's an interesting one.
Yeah, so I was struggling between a few picks this week, but the one that I ultimately settled on is I like Auburn money line at plus 110 at DraftKings. They're playing Oklahoma. It's Oklahoma's first SEC road game. They're starting a true freshman quarterback. They made quarterback change after last week's game against Tennessee, where they really struggled offensively. And I just don't trust a true freshman making his first start at Jordan-Hare Stadium.
Yeah.
I don't care how bad Auburn is. They're just, that stadium is a hard place to go into. Really tough first environment for your first SEC road game. So I'd like Auburn to win straight up.
I like it. I think it's an interesting game, and I think you and I were talking about that line is really weird. I'm going to ask Thomas what he thinks in just a minute, but I mean, -2, because I think Auburn is definitely not one of the better Auburn teams. We've seen that already. And for Oklahoma, I just think they're overrated. And so I think that the fact that whenever I see a weird line like that, when you think a line should be, I don't know, 6 or 7 and it's 2, makes me want to jump on the side that's 2. So
yeah, for sure. And then just for some of these other games, things that I debated, I like the Falcons at home, laying the 2.5. And then for LSU, I mean,
blasphemy.
Brian Kelly was one of the best coaches in his first 2 seasons against the spread at LSU, and they have yet to cover in a game this season, and that includes Nichols. If you want to,
they are 0-4 against the spread,
51.5 point spread. So I just, it's, you know, you got to fade the Tigers until they actually cover a spread against a good South Alabama team. I think in reality they'll comfortably roll them. I don't think South Alabama is going to be much trouble to LSU, but I don't know if they cover 21.5. So I wouldn't touch that spread, but if I was playing that game, I'd play South Alabama simply because LSU can't cover the spread to save their lives.
Yeah, I wouldn't touch it either because I think it's either a game. I don't think it's close to the spread. I think it's either a scary situation that LSU is either wins by like a touchdown and it's like in doubt someone in the fourth quarter, or LSU just blows them off the face of the earth. And I'm not really sure which one we're going to get. So, and I'm not betting against 0-4 ATS. So that's my opinion. So real quick, what else you got? We got to get to
town. If just taking a look at this Tulane game, I would probably lean under in that. I just think those are two hard-nosed football
That number
teams.
is jumped. I agree with you on that because last week, Tulane was 54.5 with Ooh La La. And because there was a bunch of points scored, overreaction city, and that number's jumped up to 64.5 against a team that their offense isn't that much better. I mean, I don't think South Florida's offense is that much better. I mean, so anyway, I think
they've got speed, but they're two gritty football teams.
That is a really high number.
I will part you with this. I actually love that Big Sean brought in Jim Diggity. I was thinking this morning, don't know why. Sometimes random things cross.
Yeah, and then John added to it. Jim Diggity Downer Derry. I mean,
I was just thinking of just thinking of fun little nicknames I could enter the show with. I was thinking of, Jiminy Cricket.
But you got the whole weekend.
Jim Murfordette, obviously. Just some fun stuff. So I thought it was really funny that was on my bored little mind as I was waiting in the green room. And
all right, Mondays with Gabe. I can't wait to hear what you have. Well, we'll enjoy the rest of your vacation. Enjoy the weekend, and we'll see you on Monday.
Thank you.
All right, Gabe Henderson, everybody. Came in off of his vacation. How about that? Yeah, there was some real quick before we get to Thomas. Brian asking, Demario's hammy the same as before. Could be a few weeks. I mean, I don't feel as bad about linebacker because Willie Gay is solid. As we showed this one earlier, Chris Taysom Hill is back. He was full practice, a full go, so that helps. Straight line speed. Carr is one of the fastest quarterbacks. I know you're kidding. And Big Sean, don't trust Carr. You don't trust Carr anyway, Big Sean. You don't trust Carr no matter what. So that's what it is. All right, it's time to get on to the next part of our show here on Best Bets Thursday. You know what it is. Tom Casale has had a couple of good weeks. We both had a couple of good weeks after a rough start. So let's get to it. Let's bring him in. Tom, what's going on this morning?
Not too much. How's it going, Jim?
It's going good. The hurricane is not coming this way, so we're feeling better. I'm scared for my friends in Florida, and we got plenty of family over here, but certainly didn't want 2 in a row. So anyway, we watched the golf this time of year.
Yeah, that's good. I don't know. I got a hurricane up here, I think. It's been raining for 24 hours.
Has it really? Well, it's better than what's coming in a few months, right?
Yeah.
And what'll be coming along across college football. All right, look, you and I both have had pretty decent weeks, 2 weeks in a row. We both had a very rough start. So when you look at these numbers, and we're very transparent, we show all of our numbers. So we're Tom's 6-8-1 on the season, but again, 2 good weeks in a row. You've got some very interesting picks on here. Last week you had Monmouth State over, and it didn't just go over. There were like almost 90 points scored in the game. I don't know where you find these little nuggets. You got another cool little nugget pick on here today. And I want to start out with that. Where did you get Kennesaw State over Tarleton from?
It's UT Martin.
UT Martin.
Yeah,
okay,
that's who they're playing.
Sorry.
Kennesaw State. This is their first year in FBS. So
okay, yeah,
they're kind of still an FCS school transitioning, right. But Tennessee Martin is a average middle of the road FCS program.
In the Big South, right?
Yeah. So they're it's not like they're playing Montana or North Dakota State, which they would probably be an underdog, actually, Kennesaw State. Okay. But at home against a middle of the road, FCS team, this is Kennesaw State's chance for a win. There's not many wins on that schedule. Their win total, I believe, was 1.5 to start the season. So, their defense has played okay this year. They ran an option-based offense at the FCS level. They're now turning it into like a new age spread option. So they're in transition offensively. So when they play some of these bigger teams, I think they're not going to score a lot of points as they're still trying to get all the pieces in for this. But I think against an old FCS opponent, I think they run a lot of their option stuff at home, -118. I got to go with the Owls here.
I know I called them the wrong name, but I was actually, when I said, well, let me look at this pick, I looked at UT Martin. They're 1-3 this year. So you're talking about an FCS team that is 1-3 against, a real team. I mean, sort of. But
that's the thing. I mean, Kennesaw's played, 3 hard games.
Exactly.
I mean, they just transitioned over, and they haven't played any cupcakes. It's been, right. Good solid teams that they've lost to. So I think having played, the other thing is UT Martin, this is their 5th straight game to open the season. They haven't had any buys yet. So I think everything points to Kennesaw State here.
Okay. I like it. All right, let's get to, I love this pick. And this did not make my best bets, but I think this was my number 6 pick. If I had 5 best bets, I think this would have made it. Lions -3.5 over the Seahawks. Now it's always scary to take a 3.5. You got 2 of them on here. 3.5s are always scary, but here's one thing. I don't know if this factored into your pick, Tom, or not, but Seattle has gone to Detroit 2 years in a row and beat them. And I think that alone, that revenge factor alone, I think Seattle's record is way overblown. They played 3 bad football teams and teams that have been banged up. I think, Tom, that Detroit is ready at home to say, you know what? We remember getting beat up by these guys last year in overtime. I think we're going to have it ready for them this year. I think they'll play their best game of the year.
Yeah, so my son's actually a Lions fan, and
Okay.
like his biggest rival besides like the Packers is the Seattle, because he's
Really?
only been a Lions fan for 3 years.
Okay.
So that's kind of like, because like as you mentioned, they've beaten them, and 2 years ago that close game, that the high scoring wild game kept them
Right.
out
It was
of
like
the playoffs.
44-41 or something.
Yeah, and then the final game, Seattle played the Rams, and he needed the Rams to win for the Lions to make the playoffs. So he's all anti-Seattle.
Okay.
But the thing with this pick is, I actually bet the Seahawks to make the playoffs at plus 180. So I'm thrilled with the 3-0 start. But here's the other thing: they got to be the most overrated 3-0 team in NFL history. They played the two teams with the worst rosters, in my opinion, in Denver and the Patriots. And then they not only played the Dolphins with their backup quarterback, but he got hurt. So they're down to a third-string quarterback who shouldn't even be in the league.
Right.
And remember what kind of defense they run. They run the Ravens blitz-happy defense, and we know what the Ravens do to bad quarterbacks. They love facing bad quarterbacks because they're going to send – that's the old defensive coordinator, McDonald, from the Ravens. He send pressure. So that's why I liked him last week, because his defense does so well against bad quarterbacks. Now, Goff, he hasn't played great this year, but I certainly wouldn't put him in the bad quarterback. I think that offense is due for a breakout game. And with the way Seattle plays defense, I think they're going to have some opportunities in the passing game.
I will say this. Look, I went into the season. I wouldn't say down on Detroit, but I don't think as highly of Detroit as a lot of people do. So that being said, though, I just think this is a game where they look like last year's Detroit. I think they're just waiting for a game like this in a team like Seattle where they can do it. I'm fully endorses that pick. Your 3-point pick, and interesting, you're going for one of the blockbuster games of the week. In fact, the blockbuster game of the week. Talk about the Georgia Bulldogs, and we get to find how good they really are. -2 against Alabama. You're not believing in Jalen Milroe.
No, I do. I'm in the minority here. Everyone likes Alabama this week. I don't like the spread being 2. If you got Alabama at the early number of 4.5 on the look ahead, I think that's a good play. But when you get down to -1.5, -2, I have Georgia in the power ranking still about a 3.5, 4-point favorite over Alabama. And, I had Alabama against Wisconsin. I don't think people realize how bad Wisconsin is. Plus, they lost their quarterback in the second quarter. Georgia went to Kentucky. They played one of their, I don't know, for all that interested games that they do sometimes in the SEC. This is a team that's won 16 straight on the road. Now, you say, oh, well, Alabama 9-1 against Georgia. That was with Nick Saban. And remember who coached under Saban? Kirby Smart. And Saban in the last 3 wins averaged 36 points against Georgia. That's unheard of with that defense. I think Saban just knew Kirby's tendencies well and knew how to attack it. Plus, I think there was a couple games there where Kirby knew he was playing his mentor, and there was some brain farts. There's a couple games there Georgia should have won, especially the game they met in the national championship on the 4th down that Tua threw. They should have won that game pretty easily. I just think Georgia's the better team. I think this is a little bit of an overreaction early in the year. Remember, you mentioned South Florida got blown out twice. They didn't get blown out by Alabama. That was tied in the 4th quarter before Alabama, started scoring a lot. So I don't know. I think Georgia's the better team. Anything under a field goal, I'm going to take the Dogs.
I agree with you. I tend to, when you get marquee games like this, it always, till we get later in the season and know them a little bit better, that's the only thing I shy away from. But I definitely think Georgia's the better team. And that is a weird number, by the way. So looking forward to that. All right. I got to say, we don't disagree very often, but it seems like when we do, it's with your 4-point pick. We had Crossfire last week, and I don't have this game on my card, but I'm interested to get your thoughts. Arizona -3.5 over the Commanders. Are you just thinking that the hype on Jane Daniels is a little bit too much?
No, not the hype, but what you said earlier, when you see a line that kind of makes you scratch your head, like we're coming off this huge Monday night win.
Right.
They looked great. They didn't punt, right? They beat the Bengals. Now they go on the road and they're getting over a field goal. It seems a little weird to me, right? And I I think that they're coming off a real emotional win. You know, that was they were pumped up for that game. They were in front of the whole country. Now they got to come back. They got to go to Arizona. You know, I think Arizona has played well overall. They lost to two pretty good teams in Detroit and Buffalo.
Right.
I think this could be a little bit of but remember, Washington's a very young team. That's something I always look at, because young teams have to learn how to win week to week to week. And it's not always easy. So I could see Washington having a little bit of a letdown here coming off that big Monday night win. And again, the line just, I don't know, it's a little weird. And it almost feels like they're begging people to take Washington this week.
I hear you. I think that makes sense. And it is a weird line. And I will say that you got a point. I never really thought about it. And it isn't one of my top 5 games. I did pick Washington plus 3.5, but I don't think I factored in the short week, going to the desert all the way across the country, and this emotional win over a really good team. It does point towards Arizona. So that's
another one of my betting strategies is when on my group text with my couple of my friends and my cousins, when everybody's asking about this game, Washington's getting 3.5. That's a big red flag for me, because those are the most public casual bettors on earth. And when everybody
begging you to take Washington,
went to Washington, that's what made me look at the game a little closer.
I know you got me rethinking my pick. Maybe I'll move it down in my because I play this little, your confidence pool picks with some friends of mine. Maybe I'll move that Washington pick down a little bit. That kind of makes me nervous. Gabe says I just hate Arizona. I don't hate Arizona. I just don't think they're as good as some people think they are. But anyway, all right, moving on. Your top play of the week, Rutgers in a Big Ten game playing Washington. What the hell? Rutgers is -2.
Yeah, listen, I had this game circled in the offseason, and it's a theory I'm going to try out here. With this new conference alignment, okay, Washington is a team that is replacing, by any metric you use, as much quality production last season as anybody, right? They're a brand new football team. They haven't left the state of Washington yet. They've played 3 cupcakes at home. They played a neutral game with Washington State, which they lost. And now they got to go across the country. This is their first road game. They're playing a Rutgers team who's not great, but is solid. They just beat a Virginia Tech on the road. In my opinion, Rutgers is still a little undervalued in the market. We don't know a ton about Washington, but I think it's going to be interesting to see about these. Because here's the thing, Jim. I worked for the Patriots, and I can tell you, going cross country on a plane for a game is tough. That's why they always talk about it. It's not easy, and you got these college kids on a Friday night flying cross country to Piscataway, New Jersey. I think this is going to be an interesting. It's just something I'm tracking. The reason I took Rutgers -2 is because I thought they should have been at least a field goal favorite here. So you're getting that, as you mentioned before, the key number 3. You're getting under it. So even if it's a close game, I think Rutgers can pull it out by a field goal.
Yeah, I like it. And you obviously, you're fairly close to Rutgers, so you probably see a decent amount about them. We don't hear a whole lot about Rutgers here in Louisiana, but by the way, why don't they just call it New Jersey State University? Why does it? I never understood.
I don't know. It's.
That's what it is, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's
it's like in 3 different places too. Like it's in like I had to make sure, because I wrote up an article that's going to be on NOLA for the game, and I wrote Piscataway, New Jersey is going to be rocking, and I'm like, wait, are they in Piscataway? And they have like 4 different campuses all over New Jersey. So
do they really rock? Do they really get that fired up?
This one will be rocking.
All
right, Shiano, have them chopping wood. Yeah, this is one of Rutgers was good years back when Shiano was there, and they had a Friday night game that was insane. This will probably be the biggest game since that game.
And then he made the mistake of trying to go coach in the NFL.
Him and Matt Rule stay in college.
Yeah, exactly. All right, before we get to the 4 best games of the week in college football, one of them you already talked about, but I want to get your opinion on Saints-Falcons before we move to the next slide. These Saints injuries, obviously, I think, some people are saying I'm making too big of a deal out of them. I'd like to get someone who's not from this New Orleans area. You follow the NFL as much as anyone. Just your thoughts on whether you think that these offensive line injuries mean a whole lot.
Well, I always think offensive line injuries.
Right.
My son plays.
Your son's a long snapper.
He plays center, and I know if you take him or the other good kid on the team off the offensive line, we're not going to win many football games. But so I always look at the offensive line. This is a tough game to read. You got both teams coming off really tough games that they could have won. What would we have thought of either team if they had won those games? Raheem Morris reminded everybody what kind of coach he was back in Tampa Bay at the end of that Chiefs game.
Yes, he did.
Listen, when the other coach is running to call a timeout and you beat him to it, that's probably a bad move, right?
That's
like it's so listen, I'm going to go a little opposite here. This wouldn't be a pick of mine or anything, but if you said you have to make a pick, I'd probably go with the Saints. I don't want to read too much in the last week. The Eagles are a good team. I thought the Saints should have scored more against them. I thought they had opportunities. But, again, it's the NFL is so hard week to week. The Saints look great for 2 weeks, and then they lose to a tough. Now everybody's down on them. I do think the offensive line, but again, remember the Falcons played on Monday night. And how long do you think they were stewing about that loss to the Chiefs? I mean, did they have a good practice on Wednesday? I don't know, because they were probably all still pissed off that they weren't calling penalties, on the Chiefs, and that, the NFL's fixed because of Taylor Swift.
Oh, it's always rigged.
But the bottom line is, if you look at both those games, the Falcons should have won that game. And you mentioned long snappers. The play of the game to me was the Chiefs punter catching that snap that was flying over his head.
That was
a great play. But I thought the Falcons should have won that game. So I lean the Saints, but this is one of those where I'm just going to sit back and watch, because I think this game will tell us a lot about both teams.
By the way, that money line has changed. I did not update the graphic. That's from last night. The lines are still the same, but the money line is actually shaded more towards the Falcons now. I think they're like minus 135. Saints are like plus 115. So the bettors are starting to trend towards the Falcons, but I don't think this line's going to get to 3. That's too big of a shift. I would be surprised if it gets beyond 2.5. So
what do you think of the total? I almost put the total. I thought it was a little low. I
actually like the under. I've been talking about the under, and the reason why is we talk about O-line injuries, and so the Saints aren't the only ones with O-line injuries. There are only 2 guys on the Falcons injury report, period. They've lost their center. He's on IR. And their right guard is probably going to miss the game. He's got an MCL injury. So they got backup linemen too. I think it could be a really good day for both defensive linemen.
Yeah, I saw that number and it jumped out.
It is low, though, especially Saints-Falcons.
Yeah.
And it could be an overreaction to, Saints playing a 15-12 game last week. Could be an overreaction to that. But I would take the under there if I were forced to. That game's in my best bet, so I don't want to get too far into it. So we'll have to see what I think. All right. Before we get to the best games, the games to watch, we already talked about Georgia, Alabama, but I want to get your thoughts on South Al, LSU. And this game kind of scares me if you're an LSU fan, because they simply haven't played well. I mean, let's be frank. They're 0-4 against the spread. They've snuck away. Now they stunk against UCLA in the first half. Then they were able to overcome and play really well in the second half and kind of pull away a little bit. Didn't cover. And now they've lost Harold Perkins for the season with an ACL injury against a team that scored 87 and 48 the past couple of weeks. You look at the numbers. South Al is 13th in offense. Now, they haven't played anybody great, but we all know that LSU's secondary is not very good.
Yeah, listen, I had LSU last week. I don't think people realize how bad UCLA is. Wait
they are bad
now, and you see how bad UCLA is getting hammered in the Big Ten. I thought that was a bad performance, not just because I lost the play, just because, I thought they were going to come right out and do whatever they wanted offensively. Let me say this. The offense worries me a little bit. I thought it would be better by now. And I thought the UCLA – now, listen, they'll probably score against South Alabama, but there seems to be no just the offense is kind of all over the place. And I thought they'd run the ball better with the offensive line. So I'm concerned about the offense because Indiana hung 40 on UCLA like they were like, again, I know this last week. They had 14 penalties, and a lot of them were offensive after big, like Indiana could have scored 60 in that game if they weren't called for some of those penalties. Right. So I'm a little concerned. If I had to take a bet in this game, I would probably bet the South Alabama team total over. It's in the teens. I meant to look it up.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And only because even if it's a blowout, I think garbage time, they could score some points. Listen, the jury's still out on LSU. I got to see. Last week was the week I thought they were going to say, all right, enough fooling around. Let's go beat this team by 50. And like you said, they needed a big second half just to win the game. So I think if you're an LSU fan, you say, okay, here's the takeaway. We lost the top two guys for Offensive Rookie of the Year. Okay, the two favorites for Offensive Rookie of the Year were on last year's LSU team. Then you lost another guy who's pretty good, Brian Thomas Jr. So maybe it's going to take the offense a little time to get going. Maybe this is the game where it finally comes together and gets us set up for the SEC run.
What's scariest about what you just said, though, is, and I agree with you, we still don't. The jury's still out on LSU. When you're about to get into October and the jury's still out, that says a whole lot about a team to me. That's almost as if, you know what, the jury isn't out. They aren't as good as we thought or hoped they would be. So I think this is a game to where, you know, I would stay away from it. I wouldn't play it because it's like I told Gabe, and I believe this. I think this could be a scare kind of game, one of those games where you see at the top of SportsCenter, South Alabama beat LSU. I'm not saying they will. I'm saying it's possible. And I certainly think that either South Alabama hangs around and makes it a game into the fourth quarter and no way LSU covers, or the complete opposite. I don't think it's right in the middle. I don't think it's close to the 21.5. I think it's either like a 7-point game or LSU blows them out. And I'm just not sure which one we're going to see. Maybe they get some momentum going. Maybe they don't. I don't know, but I just don't like what I've seen so far. And like Gabe says, Joe Sloan's play calling has been suspect at best. I completely agree. We'll see if that changes. All right. South Florida against Tulane. This is an interesting matchup. It's the AAC opener. Tulane, after a really solid start, and even against Kansas State, a game they should have won, they went to Oklahoma and were formidable. I don't like the way they played last week against ULL, and I thought their defense was not very good. Now they get a South Florida team that actually hung with Alabama for a little while. That score, I think it ended up 42-13 or something like that, but that score was actually fairly tight for quite a while. So I'm not sure what to make of South Florida, but this is an interesting line. I'd probably take the Bulls if I had to pick a spread. Again, another game I'm not going to touch, but what do you think about this line?
Yeah, I would lean the under here.
Okay, so I like that too.
Because you mentioned the Alabama game. That was 14-13.
Right.
And then Alabama brought in their right tackle who was injured because the other guy was getting killed. And then they scored a bunch of, things kind of fell off for South Florida at the end there, and Alabama scored. But their defense is athletic. That's what gave out watching Alabama against them is one of the reasons I like Georgia. Alabama had problems with their athletic defense. That they were containing Milroe. They're making them throw I think that's what Georgia's going to do. And so I think this is a little bit too high of a number at 64.5. I feel like it should be more around 58.5, 59.5. So you're getting a little value. So I would lean under here.
Yeah. And Gabe and I talked about it. And I think this number is an overreaction to what Tulane did last week. I think there were 76 points or somewhere along that line, 41-33. So 74 points scored in the Tulane ULL game. And I just think that's out of character for Tulane, because I actually think their defense is a little bit better than that. So I wholeheartedly endorse the under. I actually think this game could be in the low 50s, maybe even high 40s. So I think you're getting a lot of value there. Interesting game. All right, we already talked about Georgia, Alabama, but there's no question that's the marquee game of the week. The SEC will get we'll find out who is at the top of the hierarchy after that one's over. But you had Louisville in your picks last week, I think, or was it you? I
had Georgia Tech, and they were covering the whole game until they tried a 50-yard field goal with 3 minutes left. They got blocked and returned for a touchdown. That's always a great way to lose. I lost by a half a point. And luckily for me, I see they've showed that game like 7 times on the ACC network and the ESPNU this week. So they really want me to know that that they were covering the whole game until the last 3 minutes.
Yeah, well, there's bad beats and then there's stuff like that. That stuff, you don't remember the good ones. You only remember the bad ones, and you'll remember that one probably years from now. All right, Louisville is getting 6.5, going to play the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame, 2:30 p.m. on Peacock. What do you think here? This is an interesting matchup between two ranked teams. Notre Dame's defense has been pretty darn good.
Yeah, I like Notre Dame originally, but I can't get there with 6.5. Their offense just isn't consistent enough for me. This is kind of a revenge spot. Louisville got them last year, and I still think it's a hard game to pick because we still don't know a ton about Louisville. They beat 2 cupcakes, and then Georgia Tech was hanging around with them until the end. So it's one of those games I think where I just feel like if I took the 6.5, it would be 24-3. And so I don't like Louisville. I lean Notre Dame, but with their offense, and you never know what you're getting, I can't lay close to a touchdown right now.
I hear you. I would lean under, honestly.
Yeah. There's not going to be a lot of points scored.
I mean, I think this is and which is why if I were forced to take a line, I would take Louisville, because I think when you're talking about a low scoring game, you're getting that many points. Excuse me, that's too many. All right. Third best game on the list is in Uncle Big Nick's picks of the week. Oklahoma State has had their issues. Kansas State also. Oklahoma State a 5-point dog.
Yeah, Kansas State got blitzed at BYU last week. I mean, they couldn't do nothing right except get the Avery Johnson rushing over, which wins every week.
Right.
But they're a different team at home. And coming off such a bad performance, that's kind of when I like to back a college football team, is because they're not nearly as bad as they showed against BYU. But again, they went to Tulane. They should have lost that game. But at home, they blitzed Arizona. I just think this is a team where it's usually kind of this way, but more so this year. If you're going to bet Kansas State, you want to bet them in Manhattan, Kansas. On the road, they could be a nice fade team this year. So 5 is a touch too high for me, but I lean Kansas State.
Yep, me too. I like it, and I think it's going to be a fun game to watch, actually. Let's see what Avery Johnson does in this one. But you're right, man. His rushing number, it's like solid gold. If you're in a state that can bet college props, that is, because not everyone is anymore. They're cutting back on that. Good Lord. All right. Our fourth game of the week was one that is Gabe's best bet. He likes Auburn getting 2 points at home. Oklahoma's first road SEC game. What do you think?
Yeah, listen, Gabe's got more guts than me because I can't be more down on two teams than I am these two. Listen, here's the problem. Neither of them have a quarterback. You can't play in the SEC when you don't have a quarterback. You're going to get killed. Auburn has gone to a couple of different guys. Oklahoma's making the switch right now. Listen, I know it's low, but I don't know how this game gets to 45 points. Both defenses are good. I just don't know how they put drives together. Now, when you take a low over-under like this, pick six, punt returns, things like that can make it go over. But I don't see these teams sustaining drives throughout the game. They're just, the quarterback play is not there. The defenses are the strengths of both teams. So I would look for a 16-13 kind of game.
That's interesting because I guarantee you, when you look at the numbers, if you can find the numbers on this, I guarantee you the bettors will probably be 80% over, because you see a over-under that doesn't involve like a Notre Dame, who everybody knows has a good defense. But you make a great point. That might be actually a really good value number. Maybe that should be more like 41, right? But they're not going to do that in an SEC game. So that's an interesting number to me. I like it. But I also like Gabe's pick and the reasoning behind Gabe's pick of taking Auburn here, because I think that line doesn't make sense. I think Oklahoma, you talk about neither team having a quarterback. I don't know that Oklahoma knows what they're getting themselves into going into the SEC on the road. And I know Auburn is a mediocre kind of team, but Jordan Hare is a tough place to play. I mean, I've been there several times. It is not a fun place to play for a visitor. And I think that line kind of stinks a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Auburn won the game straight up. What else? Is there anything you like or something you're going to be looking for this weekend that maybe we didn't talk about before we let you go?
The only other thing is I didn't put it on my card because the numbers dropped so much, but I took Cincinnati getting 5.5 against
Okay.
Texas Tech. I had Texas Tech last week. I thought it was a
Yep.
good spot against Arizona State, but I still don't think they're a great football team. Cincinnati's still undervalued in the market, and you saw that by that opening number of 5.5. That's down to 2.5 now. But I do think Cincinnati gets the win there. And if you're looking for, listen, I'm a Cowboys fan, and know I'm down on them, but they just know how to. The Giants, they have their number. I think it's going to be an interesting game. I think
that's what I was going to ask you about next.
The Giants have injuries at the cornerback position. I could see some points scored in this game, actually, because I think the biggest overrated thing coming into the season was the Cowboys defense. They lost a lot of people from last year, not the high end guys like Micah Parsons, but a lot of people who contributed. So I think there could be some points scored here. I think the number is a little low now. I think
Very
the Cowboys.
low.
I think the Cowboys go on the road and get this win. Dallas is similar to the Ravens, like I mentioned earlier. They have a front-running defense. When you play guys who can't block that great and you play quarterbacks who aren't great, they get their pass rush off. When you play teams that can either run the ball or balance, they have all kinds of trouble. I don't think the Giants are one of those teams, so I think the Cowboys get the win tonight.
Yeah, I was back and forth on this one when I did my NFL picks column, and I ended up the spread when I did it was Giants +6. That has quickly changed. I think it's 4 now.
Yeah.
And so anyway, and I even wrote that I'm 3-0 on Thursdays so far. So when I do my column next week, I will say, way to break a streak by taking the Giants. So I mean,
it's going to be a tight. Listen, the Cowboys,
I'm on the fence.
Yeah, the Cowboys aren't any good. I think it's how it is, like with numbers. Like if it was 6 or 6.5, 7, I wouldn't touch it. But now that you're down to 4, I don't know. We'll have to see. There's rumblings that this Cowboys team, they don't like each other. I can see that. I can. So we'll see how it goes. I just don't. I wouldn't get too excited about the Giants win against Cleveland. I think Cleveland is not good at all.
They lose, does McCarthy get fired?
Well, I don't know this early, only because who's going to take it? I don't Zimmer. Know. Zimmer's part of the problem.
He is definitely part of the problem.
So, I don't know. Jerry does this to himself. I tell you this right now. This is one thing that you can bet on. Bill Belichick ain't going to Dallas. He's not. He's not going to go there and deal with that crap. The guy's 70-some years old. And plus Parcells hated it there. So Trust me, I don't care if they think they don't like each other. If Bill Belichick's thinking about going to Dallas, he's calling Bill Parcells.
Yeah.
Parcells left early because he couldn't take it anymore with Jerry Jones. And now it's only worse because Jerry's senile. So I don't know. I think it would have to be a couple more losses, only because I don't know who they would bring in to run the team unless they decide to go with Zimmer.
You know what? It's administration's fault. To me, you blame this on Jerry Jones and his son, because you can't go into a season with no running game.
No.
I mean, they have no running game whatsoever, and their offensive line is worse than it was last year.
Right.
You can't do that, and you putting all this pressure on Dak to like thread needles and get the ball out sooner. And I mean, his receiving core isn't as good as it was either. I mean, you still got CeeDee Lamb, but man, I just don't know what they're thinking.
Jerry is so stupid. He
really is.
He thinks he's got the offensive line he had 3 years ago. They're starting 2 rookies. This is a completely different offensive line. Yeah, if you had back when they had the best offensive line in football, maybe you can get a Rico Dowdell back there.
Right.
They don't have that line anymore. The guy doesn't adapt to his team. He's still talking about what was happening back in the early 90s with Emmitt Smith. I mean, it's a completely different game back then. And it makes no difference what you did back in the early 90s.
And you let your best running back leave and go to Tennessee, and I don't understand how they let Tony Pollard leave. That's, I get that he was injury prone, but still. I mean, that made no sense.
But no plan B. Like, you let them leave. What's plan B? They don't have.
There is none. Bring back Ezekiel Elliott, who's like 94 years old. I mean, come on. I mean, I don't know. Maybe Emmitt Smith's available. They can bring him back. All right, Tom. We'll talk to you next week. Great stuff, and looking forward to us continuing our momentum.
Yeah, good luck this weekend, and I look forward to these games. Georgia, Alabama should be fun. I'll talk to you next Thursday.
Sounds good. See you then. Tom Casale, everybody. Great analysis. What am I doing here? Come on, you can do it. You can do it. I don't know what's going on here. There we go. We'll just use that one. It didn't like the other slide. All right. By the way, back here, what are you guys doing in this chat? You're like PBM and Big Sean. Can y'all just get along? If you don't know what I'm talking about, you gotta look at the YouTube chat. You guys. Can't we just get along? Can we agree to disagree? Terrence, hope I'm feeling better. Well, I'll tell you, I was feeling a lot better. I don't know what the deal is today, but it's like relapse or something. You've seen me have to press the mute button like 4 or 5 times. I don't know what's going on. I hope it's not coming back. I got too much to do. He was at the LSU game. 0 energy, Terrence says. Also, the Saints game, 0 confidence once McCoy went out. Absolutely right. Every team should have a quality 6th lineman. Absolutely right. He loves Kool-Aid, but should have taken another O lineman. Dark times ahead. Blame Loomis. I'd like to say I disagree with you, but I don't. He also says, of course, it's pretty obvious. All Jerry's fault. Barbara says she believes we can win the game. Okay. I'm glad. We need some believers. John says, ha, can't we get along? Yeah. Just want to get along. We all want to love each other. UBN says the Cowboys helmet is a rating of their team. They're a 1-star team. That's who they are. Speaking of UBN, it's time to get to UBN. We had our pick segment. We recorded it yesterday, and we'll show it to you here, and then we'll come back and wrap up the show. We've got some interesting picks. Don't hate me. Don't hate me. I'll be showing comments. You can type them in just because the segment is recorded, and we'll show it to you. Feel free to comment while we're talking, and I'll show it on the screen. Here it is. Have fun. 21 minutes and 38 seconds. Then we'll be back to wrap it up.
Uncle Big Nick, can we make some picks today? Mom, can we please?
Well, I can make some picks today, but I don't know what the hell kind of picks you're going to make.
I mean, I can make picks. Ain't nobody said I had to win. You just said you wanted me to come on to make picks.
Yeah. I mean, it's preferable though if you win them.
Well, I mean, we're trying. Is that real? Is that real? 3-12.
3-12. I will say this: you're 2-1 on your 1 point pick. So your 1 point pick is probably golden.
Yeah.
Maybe we should.
The one I'm least confident in. Go ahead and bet that one.
Bet against all the other ones. It has been a rough start for Uncle Big Nick, but you know what? You had a rough start last year, but this year's where you went on like a tear, and the problem was at the end of the season, your record was good, not great. It was above 500, but you sucked so bad in the beginning, so you just like doing that again. You're ready to go on a tear, and nobody knows when that tear is going to start.
No, and just know that if the first week I do like 4-1, follow me next week because normally it's streaky.
That's definitely true. You've gone 4-1 like 5 weeks in a row, so hopefully that's the start of this week. All right. Last week I was 3-2 for the second straight week because I had an awful first week. I just happened to turn mine around in weeks 2 and 3. So let's see if what we can do in week 4 here. The way we do it, if you're new to this and you can't see what those numbers are behind the our picks there, and I was going to hide my 4-point pick, but I said to hell with it. I kind of gave it away yesterday, so here it is on the screen. We'll get to it in a minute. But our top pick, it's 5 points if you get it right, 4 points, and so on all the way down to 1 point. I had 10 points last week. I was 3-2, 20 points for the season. Most you can get in a week is 15, so I'm not doing great either. Max points you can have right now is 45, and I'm under 500 there. So, and Uncle Big Nick's about to turn it on. So here we go. All right, we're going to get started. And your 1 point pick, which has been hot to trot, South Alabama, LSU over 65. That is a lot of points.
Well, I told you 2 weeks ago that I'm just going to start taking every LSU over. I didn't last week. Good thing because they didn't go over. So last week was the first game that LSU hasn't went over.
Yeah.
This South Alabama team has a really good offense. And they let Nichols score 21, 24, whatever it was against them. If this South Alabama team that put up 87 against Western State, I don't care who you play, you put up 87 points, you have a good offense.
Like they put up 48 last week against Southern Miss.
Right. So I'm banking on USA being able to score 20 to 30 points, in between 20 and 30. I think LSU could put up 40 easy against this team. So 44, 24, something like that, I'm there. That's what I'm going with this. I'm just going with what I think.
I think LSU is going to score 50. I really do.
Yeah, if LSU scores 50, then I'm there. This LSU defense can't stop a nosebleed. The other thing I'm looking at with LSU is, unlike teams in the past, it's like they come out not ready, and then at halftime, Kelly, whoever, gets them ready at half, and they come out the second half and just dominate.
Yeah.
So I'm also looking at betting maybe a USA first half bet, because it's always close in the first half, it seems like. Then LSU makes adjustments, which never happens with LSU in the past, and then they just dominate the second half. Yeah. So that's another little tidbit that maybe you could throw in there.
I like it. I endorse it. We'll see if I bet it. I'll wait till Saturday to figure out if I'm bet it, but I'll go Big Nick's 1 point pick, South Alabama, LSU over 65. My 1 point pick, going back to the well with the Los Angeles Rams. Nobody's giving them any credit. Why are they going on the road to play Caleb Williams and they're getting 2.5? I get that they're going across the country. I get that they're banged up, but they beat one of the best teams in the NFC last week. Now, granted, it was kind of fluky. They had to come back and everything had to happen right for them, but they still won it.
Who was that team again? I forgot about. I don't know. I forgot about that game.
Yeah, it's called the San Francisco 49ers, who happen to have a worse record than the New Orleans Saints right now. That's all I'm going to say. But anyway, so Rams getting 2.5 at Chicago at Soldier Field. It's supposed to be a rainy day as we record this on Tuesday evening, Wednesday evening, excuse me. As we record this on Wednesday evening, the forecast is for rain, which makes me like LA even more, because I think they'll be able to run the ball. And I think I trust Stafford in the rain a lot more than I trust Caleb Williams, who's been throwing pick after pick. He can't throw anything longer than 8 or 10 yards. Give me the Rams plus 2.5. Your 2 point pick is Kansas State.
Wait.
Oh, you gonna disagree with me?
No, I'm not disagreeing. I want to ask a question.
Okay.
Who are the Bears to be giving anybody 2.5 points anywhere?
Not. I know.
They could play on the moon. They shouldn't be giving 2.5 points to anybody.
Well, and what that tells you is, on a neutral site, it would be like Bears by 0.5 point.
And that's not even close.
And I think the Rams are definitely a better team than the Bears. I mean, just
the Rams
overall.
B squad is better than the Bears.
Yeah.
I mean, the B squad beat San Francisco last week.
Big joke we've had this week is who are the Bears going to draft as the number 1 quarterback next year?
Yeah, maybe they look really good drafting Caleb over Jaden.
Maybe they'll trade Caleb Williams to who knows who, and then they'll start over again. The Bears are a mess. All right, your 2 point pick, Kansas State -5 over the Oklahoma State Cowboys. You liking them Wildcats?
Yeah, I like the Wildcats. I almost, full disclosure, they were my last cut last week. They were giving BYU 6 in BYU. Kansas State lost 30-7. So I would have lost that one too. The score's a little skewed because they gave up a punt return touchdown and an interception return touchdown. I like this Kansas State team. I've been liking this Kansas State team. I think they got a wake-up call last week. This Oklahoma State team is a mess. I think Gundy's on his way out. He's a man. He's 40. He's a 52-year-old man now.
Mullet-head.
So yeah, I think he's on his way out. Like, they need a new regime over there. Ollie Gordon's really good for Oklahoma State. He was a Heisman finalist coming into the year. He hasn't showed up at one game this year, and I think this team is quit. Like, I think this team is just gave up on their coaching, and I just like this Kansas State team better. Kansas State has a quarterback named Avery Johnson. It's not the Avery Johnson you're thinking of. I had to say that because I know you like Avery Johnson.
I love him, Avery Johnson. Yeah, this one's also fast and short, just white, and he plays quarterback for Kansas State Wildcats.
It looks like the kid from Friday Night Lights.
Yeah, he does kind of. All right, I don't know. I'm glad to see you're back to your roots of picking college. That's going to turn this whole thing around.
College, I told you it's going to take me some time to figure out who these teams are. I'm saying that now. I'm probably going to go 0-5 again, but just figuring out where these teams are, who fits where, these transfer portal, and it's just a mess.
All right, I'm going to go to a game for my 4-point pick that no sharp really wants to touch because they're afraid to pick against the Ravens, and they just think one game, ooh, the Ravens are back because they beat the Cowboys on the road. Big whoop. Look, I think I discounted the Bills from the beginning of the season. I said the Jets were going to win the AFC East. To me, the Bills are looking like the best team in the AFC right now. Now, I'm not saying it's going to last all year, and we all know anybody who watches the Bills, they go in lulls. They have their lulls during the season at some point, but not usually this early. And I think they got something to prove. They've only played the Ravens twice since Josh Allen's been there. And so it's not like there's a long history to judge by. The Bills happen to play the Chiefs a lot more. These teams are 1-1 against each other with Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. I just think that the Bills are that good. And I know they played nobody last week. The Jags are terrible. I mean, they're a mess.
Speaking about giving up.
Really, they really are. They just gave up. And I get this is in Baltimore, and Baltimore's still desperate and blah, blah, blah. I just think so the Bills are that much of a better team. And you're going to give me points? You're going to give me 2.5? This basically says on a neutral site this game that the Ravens are still a little bit better. Line doesn't make any sense to me. I think it should be a pick 'em game. Bills are getting 2.5. I'm going to take the Bills.
I like this pick. What is it with teams losing star wide receivers and getting better?
But sometimes like they're too much trouble.
Tyreek left. Mahomes wins the Super Bowl right after. Diggs leaves Josh Allen. Josh Allen looks like the best quarterback in the league right now.
I think sometimes it's just too much trouble. You know, when you got a Stephon Diggs, maybe he wasn't getting the ball enough and he was causing.
Yeah, and you got to think about giving him the ball. I heard a stat. I think it's 18-0 now. Josh Allen is 18-0 if he doesn't turn the ball over.
Wow. Well,
if he doesn't make a turnover,
we'll see if he does or doesn't in this one. But
he has none this year.
That's not going to last. We all know.
No, that's not going to last. I know,
but he is playing an MVP caliber. And look, MVP caliber. Let's see if he's got it against the real MVP, the 2-time MVP.
Well, I got this coming up, so I'll talk about more of this game later.
All right, we're going to go to your 3-point pick. You got the Ball State Cardinals. Mike New, little tidbit, little trivia for people who don't know this. Mike New was the coach of the New Orleans Voodoo for, I think, 5 years. I covered him. I know Mike well. It's been a long time since we've spoken, but he is the coach of the Ball State Cardinals. You got them getting 20.5 from James Madison.
Remember last week I took MC State plus 20.5, and you said, "Oh, they just dangle that there because people don't want to take the 21."
Yeah,
and then they got blown out by Clemson.
Yeah,
so I'm trying it again. What I'm gonna do?
Well,
James Madison
made a nice run last week.
They did. I was praying they got there, but they didn't. James Madison just beat North Carolina 70-50, and now they're giving Ball State 20.5. Like,
seems
why?
Like
they just beat North Carolina by 20.
Yeah.
And you're only going to give Ball State 20.5. It just seems fishy, this line. And this is what I'm talking about, getting back to my roots. Like, James Madison, these kids been partying all week.
Yeah,
they've been celebrating this victory. Oh, we just got Ball State next week. We close through this and beat them. We just put 70 up on North Carolina. I'm not saying James Madison will come in and lose. I just don't think they'll come in and blow them out.
I like that kind of pick. I'm not saying that I don't know enough to say, okay, I fully endorse it. But those are the kind of picks I like because I completely agree that James Madison wins by 20 over North Carolina. Well, they should beat Ball State by 40.
Not
necessarily.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I like.
Have you been watching the underdogs this year?
Doesn't work that way. All right, my 3-point pick. I'm staying with them. I'm stubborn. I wrote it in my NFL picks column. They're 1-1 when I pick them this year against the spread. I know the Cleveland Browns stink, but going back to what you said about the Bears, who in the hell are the Raiders to be giving points to anybody? The Raiders are, I know they beat the Ravens. That was a fluke. The Ravens are a terrible football team. They're really good up front. And other than that, they got a good receiver in Devontae Adams, but I think this team's terrible other than that. And look, they're all frustrated, talking smack about one another. Cleveland Browns, I still believe that they're at the bare minimum an average football team. Maybe Deshaun Watson's bringing them down. Maybe Stefanski will make a change. I just think the Browns, even though they're kind of banged up on defense, I still think they're going to give the Raiders a whole lot of trouble. Maybe I should have taken the under. I don't know, but I like the Browns here to go on the road and either get things together or their season's about to go straight in the tank.
Yeah, I like the Browns here too. I mean, it's weird. The Raiders beat the Ravens, played the Red Water Pistol led Carolina Panthers,
Exactly.
and they benched their quarterback. And now there's a quarterback controversy in the Raiders. You just beat the Ravens with that quarterback.
Right.
It's so weird that dynamic over there. So I think both these teams are a mess. I wouldn't touch this game, but who am I to tell you who to pick right now?
I like touch games that other people won't because I think that's where you get value. And actually, this line has moved. It was +1 in my picks column. It's now +2. So I'm getting an extra point of value. It tells me the Sharps are taking the Raiders. I don't care. I've been going against the Sharps the last 2 weeks. You know what? We all stunk week 1. The Sharps lost. We lost. I think Aunt Mabel, everybody lost week 1. So you know what? I don't care who I'm against this week. And I'm going to go with me.
What a weird year.
It has been. And if the Browns don't cover this week, I may just stay away from them for the rest of the year. We'll see. Your 4-point pick, Navy, the middies.
Yeah.
57.5. There you go.
There you go. Yeah, Navy's 3-0 to the over this year. They got a better offense than they've been having. Most of the time with these schools, they don't know how to defend these military offenses. I don't think UAB and the Fighting Trenton Differs look better to do this. I can see UAB putting up points, Navy putting up points. I just shoot out here all the way.
All right, here's the one that everybody's been waiting for. Atlanta Falcons. And this line went up. It's 1.5 in my pick. I guess the news of more injuries for the Saints on Wednesday. Again, we're recording this Wednesday evening. Bumped this line up 2.5. Falcons have their own injuries, but I don't know how many ways to say this. I know a lot of people don't want to hear it. Actually, my Dattitude crowd is a lot of them are in sync with what I'm saying. And I know we got a lot of people saying the Saints are still going to win. We'll talk more about it with Larry Holt on Friday. I think this is an easy one. I think the Falcons are going to load up the box and just charge against this offensive line. If they do a great job and make me look wrong, I'll eat crow on Monday. But I don't see how I think the Falcons are a better team anyway. And you're basically telling me at 2.5, these teams are almost even or basically even right now with all the injuries the Saints have on a neutral site? No way. I think it's a lower scoring game, but I think the Saints are going to have trouble scoring, and I think the Falcons win this one by at least a touchdown.
Yeah, I agree with you here, not just because I hate the Saints, but because I agree with everything you're saying. And is it Kamara on the injury list today? And
yeah, he'll be fine. I think it was his veteran rest day, but Demario Davis is still on.
They listed
there.
Like a hip and back or something like that. I've seen, but
he'll probably play.
Cousins has looked
world of hurt.
Oh yeah, Cousins has looked better each week that he's played.
Yeah.
So I just think he keeps getting better throughout the year when he gets more reps with this team. And this might be their breakout game. I think they should have beat Kansas City last week with that pass interference bogus call. But I mean, I know Mahomes still would have had time to drive, but they put up a real good fight against Kansas City. I liked what I seen, and I just think they're gonna come in and want to do the Saints what the Eagles did.
And a heads up for Saints fans, and another thing you don't want to hear, but I'm just telling you the way that it is. After this game, they played the Bucs on a short week, and then after that, they got like free roam where they might win like 8 games in a row. I mean, they really have take a look at the Falcons schedule. It is super easy coming up.
Oh, the Falcons. I'm sure about the Saints.
Oh, not the Saints.
Winning 8 in a row.
No. Oh, no.
Yeah.
Maybe it would. That would be a lot of fun to talk about. All right, your top pick involves a game that I have, but it's not the same pick that I have. You like the Bills and Ravens too, except you like it in the total. You like the over 46.5.
If we know anything about this Ravens team, they'll score a lot of points, and then at the end of the game, they're going to give up a lot of points. So even if they're ahead of this Bills team, I don't see them stopping this Bills team, no matter if they're ahead, behind, whatever. This Ravens defense is not the defense it was in the 2000s when they had all the people. I mean, it's living off a reputation right now. But if you look at this team, they jump out to big leads, and they just let people back in. I don't know what it is. It's a Harbaugh thing. He's been doing it since he's been there. They lose big leads. So I didn't want to touch the game because I don't know which way it's going to go, but I think this over safe.
You know, the only thing that scares me is they're also supposed to have rain this weekend. So I'm always a little nervous of picking overs in rain games.
So Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson get to run everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. That's the only
If
thing.
This wasn't running quarterbacks, I would agree.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I definitely don't like the under. I'll say that. So I don't know if I'm jumping
taking the under in the Baltimore game is got to be like taking the under in the old Pac-12.
Yeah, usually if the Ravens are involved in an under game, it's a fluky game like they had with the Raiders and just lost and stunk. So I don't think they're going to stink. I think. Look, I picked the Bills because I think both teams are going to play well, and I think the Bills are just better. I think it's going to be a really good game and really fun one to watch.
I mean, we've seen what the Bills did against Jacksonville.
Exactly.
Jacksonville, like I said, they just gave up. I don't know what's up with Trevor. I mean, first person to ever throw an interception to a guy that actually died.
Well,
I mean, that's a little fun fact for you.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
that's hard to do.
That's how bad it is for Trevor Lawrence right now. But hey, they paid him $55 million. Why try now?
But it's the joke of the day here on Dattitude, presented by Evangeline Securities. I'm sure they're loving that. All right, my top pick this week. Speaking of being stubborn, I was stubborn with the Browns. I'm stubborn with the Bengals. I'm not buying with the red rifle, red rocket, red water pistol, whatever you want to call it. I ain't buying what he's selling. The Panthers are still bad. So what if they're fired up? I don't care how fired up they are. You're talking about a Bengals team that has had, this is the third year in a row, they've had a rough start, and then they just pick it up. Seems like everybody's coming back. They're getting healthier. They still have some issues.
Who's angrier than the Bengals right now?
Nobody. And let me tell you, I got a feeling they're going to steamroll in this game. And this line went down. It was 4.5 in my picks column. It's now 3.5. So you're going to give me an extra point at top? I know people don't like betting 3.5, but I think the Bengals win by double digits here. I think they go to Charlotte and they just put a spanking on the Panthers. So
is this going to be another rain game? Is that storm going to be in there?
I don't. I think it's gone by then.
Okay.
But, it will be interesting to see if it does affect the Panthers trying to practice on Friday. Well, it could. We'll see. Also, Atlanta too. So Saints got to go to Atlanta. I don't know how they're not going to get there on Friday.
I heard that's indoors though.
Yeah, but they still got to get there.
Yeah, that's just true.
So I don't know what's going to happen with that, but so yeah, when you're making your picks this week and you're making your bets, be safe out there.
Anything on the East Coast.
You gotta watch that storm, see what's going to happen with it. All right, Uncle Big Nick. I would bet big time money that you have more than 1 point next week. That your total is at least double next week. I'm good. That's how much confidence I have in you that your total
at least we'll get 2.
Will be at least double. You got 4 right now for the year. I'm betting you're going to at least double it.
I told you to play the Happy Gilmore line for me. You were right. I was wrong.
I forgot to find.
You're the best. I'm the worst. You're very good looking. Yeah. I'm not attractive.
Tom missed it too. I'm just saying, when it's crossfire, it's me against both of y'all. I like my chances. I'm just saying.
Yeah, that was horrible.
Yeah. Well, we all make mistakes.
It's funny that everybody was on the Tennessee side for that game, and
that's why I loved where I was. And it's what I told you last week. It's really why I loved where I was, because everybody. And I don't get why people like Tennessee at all. Although that being said, I kind of like Tennessee this week.
To go back around to what you were saying about Carolina, same thing. Everybody's loving Carolina. Andy Dalton's there. They looked great on offense. And now they got to play this Bengals team that's really, really mad.
Exactly.
And
that's why it's my number 1 pick.
I love, I took the Panthers last week because I love betting teams that make changes, a coach change or a quarterback change the next week. But the following week is when you fade them. Because they get all high, they get all ready. Okay, we're backing this guy, and then they go back down to earth.
Especially when they're playing a good team.
Yes.
All right, Uncle Big Nick. We will see you next week, and next week we'll see you'll have your computer working.
I hope so. God, don't even bring that up.
All right, talk to you later.
Bye.
Big Nick and I. Last year, I was looking it up earlier. We went on a tear from the end of September through Thanksgiving, where we were having regular 4-1 weeks. I'm just saying, I know the records don't look great right now. I'm mediocre, 7-7-1. UBN been awful. I'm telling you, we're about to get on fire. UBN's back to his roots, and he always likes to pick NFL games early, and I tell him, stick to your college football roots. He went back to it. He's going to have a good week. I'm going to keep my momentum going. It's going to roll. All right. Big Sean. Wait, not that one. Wrong one. Cousins is better than Carr. I'm about to tell you why you're wrong. That is how we're going to end this show today, because I have proof that you're wrong. I've been saying, I don't know, since probably he was a Raider, that those two guys are the same quarterback. And I got numbers to back it up. Before we do that and end the show, we asked you earlier if you were thinking about whether now is the time to get in touch with Evangeline Securities to become informed on whether it might be time to sell your family-run or privately held business. Them hurricanes in the Gulf, you ain't got to worry about that no more. I mean, you got to worry about them, but it won't be the same. It'll be a lot easier without a business around. Do I have to shut down the business? Do I have to help my employees get somewhere? How long do I have to shut down? What's going to happen? Blah, blah, blah. No. I mean, you could ask me when we're done with the show, or you could ask Aunt Mabel her thoughts. But neither of us really know what the hell we're talking about. If you want to know how to make a fruitcake, ask Aunt Mabel. You want to know whether it's time to sell your business, get in touch with Evangeline. After their complimentary valuation of your company, if you decide to proceed, native New Orleanians Nick Braden, Ron Hemelt, and the folks at Evangeline will begin an extensive auction process from among established private equity funds from around the world. The world. Big world. Even Big Sean can't disagree with that. And they will maximize the return process for the founder and his or her family. Evangeline Securities is the top producer on their platform. There are very few companies like them in this area, but true. None with their dedication and success. They are fully licensed and ready to serve you, so get in touch with the homegrown, my favorites, Nick and Ron, about what's really important. The rest of your life. Yeah, I still shouldn't do that. You can find more about Evangeline Securities by going to www.evangelinesecurities.com. Okay. I said that I was going to prove it. Here you go, Big Sean. You ready? I just called it up. Derek Carr versus Kirk Cousins. They played a almost the same amount of games. Carr's played 9 more games in his career. Now, you got to remember, Carr's played on a lot more crappier teams than Kirk Cousins. He played on some really good Minnesota teams, and now he's on a good Atlanta team. He did play for Washington, and they were okay. Comparable with the Raiders teams that Carr played on, but what, for 3 seasons, 2 or 3, however many seasons he played in Minnesota. 3, right? Much better team. Wins. Carr has 74. Cousins has 77. Completion percentage. Carr 65. Kirk Cousins 66.9. Listen to this. Passing yardage. Carr 39,685. Cousins 40,097. And remember, Carr had who? Who's he had to throw to? Devontae Adams for 1 season. Cousins had Justin Jefferson. And a ton of weapons in Minnesota. Had weapons in Washington too, by the way. Passing yards per game. 245 for Carr, 262 for Cousins. That's a little bit slighted towards Cousins. Not much, though. Touchdowns are close. Interceptions within 4. Carr has 4 fewer than Cousins. They both rush for almost exactly the same amount of times for exactly the same amount of yards. Even the fantasy points are within a couple. I mean, they're within range. Their passer rating is almost the same. You can go look it up. They're the same quarterback. The difference is Cousins has played on better teams. That is the only difference. And he's certainly played with better offensive linemen. So you can keep on banging on Carr and hating on Carr. It's just there's nothing factual that says that Carr is not a top 12 quarterback. And if you're going to say he's not a top 12 quarterback, then you got to say Cousins isn't a top 12 quarterback. I want you to, in fact, we're not going to do it right now, but go ahead, email me, jderry@theadvocate.com. Do it, any of you guys and any of my regulars. Send it to me and I'll read it tomorrow. I want you to give me 11 quarterbacks that are better than Derek Carr. And you can't name Kirk Cousins because I just told you. I gave you proof. that they're the same quarterback. So you can't name Kirk Cousins. Give me 11 quarterbacks. Email me, jdarrett@theadvocate.com. When we get off the air, I want you to give me your 11 quarterbacks that are better than Derek Carr, that are playing right now. You can't do it. You can make up names and try to do it, but you can't do it. So all this stuff early in the season, and that's why I laughed. Even though my prediction of the Saints, is what it was. Derek Carr gets blasted, and he's getting a little bit more love because they're 2-1 right now. Not as much hate. But if they lose this game Sunday and then lose to the Chiefs and they're 2-3, the haters will be. It'll be just like they never played the first two games. Stay grounded. It's the same. And look, this is the realist in me, okay? Because I think they're going to lose this week, and because I think they're going to lose to the Chiefs, doesn't mean I think they'll still be ahead of where I thought they were going to be. If they go 2-3, if they win this game, it's Superland, yeah. You just don't. I'm saying Cousins is better. No, you don't listen. Some people just don't want to admit. They don't want to admit when you're proven wrong. They're the same quarterback. You just don't get it. Gabe says neither are top 12. I dare you to give me 12 quarterbacks better than Carr and Cousins. You can't do it because I'm going to go through your list and tell you, not going to happen. You're wrong. They're both top 12 or right around the top 12. You can hate all you want. Hate. The haters will be back in 2 weeks. If somehow they win this game, great, and they go 3-2, they're way ahead of where I thought they would be. But the haters will be back if they're 2-3. And yes, you know what? They'll still be the same team. They still have the potential, even if they go 2-3, with the schedule that they have the potential to win 10. Not saying they're going to win 10. They have the potential to win 6 or 7. To me, they're the same team that they were before the season started. Maybe a little bit better than I thought they would be. I don't know, man. I don't know. There is no way that Goff is better than Derek Carr. No way. CJ Stroud, way too young. Jury's still out. Aaron Rodgers is 94 years old. No. Big Sean said he's got us losing the next 3. I don't think they're going to lose to the Bucs. I think they're going to beat the Bucs. Spoiler alert, I think they're going to beat the Bucs. I think they'll be 3-3 going into the Broncos game. Terrence says he's so focused on Saints. He's so focused on Saints injuries. Maybe I'm not focused enough on the Falcons O-line injuries. Yes, but the problem is the Saints have other injuries, and the Falcons are completely healthy other than that. Maybe that gives us a chance. Maybe. Because I do think, look, I think that this is why I like the under on the game. And maybe I should have made the under as one of my best bets instead of Falcons minus 2.5. I really like the under 42. Because I think both defensive fronts are going to have a good game. I think the Saints are going to get the Carr. The problem is, what happened when the Saints played against Saquon Barkley? He ran all over him. The Saints couldn't stop Dallas Goedert. So what are the Falcons? Who are 2 of their best players? There's no question that Bijan Robinson's their best player. You can make an argument that Kyle Pitts hasn't been a big enough part of their offense, and they make him a part of this game. I don't know. So that's what worries me. That's why I ended up picking the Falcons. But again, I like the under. I don't think the Saints are going to score a lot of points, and they know their defense is going to have to be a huge part of this game. Ovide? Is that how you pronounce it? Or is it Ovid or Ovide? Kibido. Saints defense is better, and that's what's going to make the difference. Saints win this week. Who dat, baby? I hope you're right. You can send me a coupon for a Crow Po' Boy. John says they are better, but injuries are rough right now. Yeah. PBM is saying Rodgers, Allen, and Mahomes are the only ones close to Carr. That's a little much. And again, this ain't the same Aaron Rodgers. I'd rather have Derek Carr right now than Aaron Rodgers. Just saying. Anyway, maybe we'll make a show out of that one day soon. I mean, I hate to waste I don't know. Or maybe we'll make part of a show on it. UBN says, I got a Crow Po' Boy in the freezer. Hey, I'm ready to put that bad boy in the microwave. Put some hot Louisiana hot sauce on it. I'm all about being wrong this week. It'll be fun. All right, this show is going on way too long. We're trying to set records or something. We're at an hour and 30. The fact that you have stayed with me. Do y'all have jobs? I love you to death. Do y'all have jobs? I know UBN's watching in his office. I'm going to show you a picture of how he's watching me. But I got to go because Maury Povich is coming on soon. And I know he's going to cut me off. He's going to go watch Maury. And he's going to turn Dattitude off. So we are going to wrap it up. I want to thank Gabe coming off of vacation to say hello. Tom, as always, UBN, about to go on a hot streak. You can read more about our insights and thoughts. Not UBN, but you can read everybody else at bet.noah.com. Our Saints friends, updates on the injuries. We should have updates very shortly, including the newest injury report early this afternoon at noah.com/Saints. We hope you can join us tomorrow. We're going to have an in-depth, tomorrow is all Saints and the NFL Week 4. But tomorrow we break it down with Larry Holder, as we always do. I'm interested to get his thoughts. I have no idea what he's thinking about this game. Larry does a lot of numbers. He goes through the film and breaks it all down. And so I'm interested to see what he thinks about offensive line injuries for the Saints, offensive line injuries for the Falcons. Is it going to make that much of a difference? We'll see what he thinks. Also, we're going to talk about the top games. Like we talked about the top games of college football Week 5. We're going to talk about NFL Week 4 and get Larry's thoughts on those. A reminder, if you haven't already done so, take 1 second. Just take a second. Even if you don't watch every show, if you only watch one here, one there, you watch when you can, subscribe to the Dattitude YouTube page. Click the little bell to receive notifications when we go on the air live, Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Central Time, except for Tuesday. Got to take a break sometime. Also, give us a little like. If you're watching on YouTube, you haven't done so, just click the little like button, and it helps us. You like helping Dattitude. Help a brother out. You can do it. You can also find us wherever you get your podcasts, including Apple, Spotify, many more. And you can find a replay of the show, as always, on noah.com/sports. We will be back in 22 and a half hours. We got a couple comments before we say goodbye. UBN says 30 minutes to Maury. Okay, there you go. Terrence, a corporate banking job. John, deep fry that po' boy. Terrence says, put it in a toaster oven. Microwaves are the worst. You're right. I can air fry like UBN says. All right. That is going to wrap it up. Everybody have a great day. If you're watching in an area that may be affected by Hurricane Helene, please be safe out there. No joke. All kidding aside. And look, you're our enemies on Sunday from noon to 3, and we like to make fun of you. But be safe, Atlanta. That storm is headed that way as well. You're going to get some major effects from this as well. And we wish, that's right, they're our brothers, and they're the brothers we like to pound. We're the big brothers. We just pound on them. Well wishes to our brothers and our sisters and our friends in Atlanta and everywhere else along the Florida Gulf Coast for what may be a very tough night. We hope you can come back tomorrow. Go G-Men tonight. Sorry, Tom Casale. Take it easy, my friends.
If you're looking for the latest scoop and in-depth interviews on the Saints, the NFL, the Pelicans, LSU, along with the best bets of the week, then lucky you. Along with high-powered, in-the-know guests who cover our teams, Jim Derry brings plenty of Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is. or at least the way he thinks it is.